Today I will talk about uh, the level-free, sensitive, and reusable glucose sensor, biosensor using intertwined spiral inductor and interdigital capacitor-based micro resonator. I am MD Salim Reja. My student ID is 20211602207, and I am from electronic engineering department of. Now I'm going to my slide. The first, with the rapid development of biomaker, the two issues the concerning about the research. The first is the high sensitivity, and another is the low detection ranges. It also concern for the cell scale detection of the cancer issues. And in this chapter, I will cover and try to understand to aim of this chapter is reversible, reusable, micro resonator integrated passive devices with a biosensor fabrication in the gallium arsenide substrate surface for the detection of glucose in water, glucose, and syrup, making these types of biosensor. And the two things, one is intertwined spiral inductor, the couple with a interdigital capacitor, which actually increase the performance of this capacitor and also increase the sensitivity. And this sensitivity is goes up to 199 megahertz milligram per mole, and their response time is almost less than 2 seconds. And they also show the ultra low detection limited, such as up to 0.033 micrometer range, micrometer, and their reproducibility almost 0.061 relatively standard in deviation, which is quite good. And why need the high sensitivity and ultra low detection in these biosensor applications? Basically, the sensitivity is the how the sensor can sense accurately. Uh, this is indicate by the sensitivity and how the response with. In this chapter, I will talk about the micro resonator based glucose biosensor, which basic is with the shifting of the resonator frequency with the variation of glucose concentration. This is the basic principle. And if we try to increase the sensitivity, the high sensitivity will minimize the volume of the sensor and concentration of the glucose sample. So the low glucose level avoid interaction between the glucose molecule. It is also another advantage of the high sensitivity. And the another term of the low detection limit, the smallest detectable change of resonator parameters causes by the uh, sample that can sense or then can detect by the sensor. And it actually the express the how the sensor can sense this with a low or a small amount of concentration change. And it also enable the glucose biosensor to monitor like a diabetic patient in the early stage. And ultra low detection limit of this biosensor application increases the possibility of the minimal impassive sensing with a sample with a low glucose level, like silva, urine, and sweat and tears. And resonator quality is a quality factor, and the biosensor sensitivity another two factor. In the resonator is a one kind of a device which basically oscillate and produce a oscillated frequency. Is called the frequency of oscillation or resonant frequency, and its frequency is almost greater than or amplitude is the amplitude is almost greater than all the other frequencies. And this resonator are basically characterized or by the two parameters. One is the resonance frequency, which can on this frequency it can oscillate it, and another was the quality factor, or that means the Q factor. Basically, in the resonator, the Q factor is measure the strength of damping of oscillation with the per cycle, how the energy can disappear, and what the energy stored in the system. The both of the ratio is called the quality factor, and this quality factor can be defined by this formula. And in this, we can see in this picture, this is the resonant frequency F naught, and this is the 3 dB fall, 3 dB fall, and this is also the one kind of frequency. And this two factors are divided is one kind of a ratio, is the difference of this threefold frequency and the resonance frequency. And the another issue, the sensor sensitivity, which is denoted by the capital S, and this S is defined as df by dn. Basically, in the sensitivity of sensor, commonly determined by the figure of merit FOM form, and this is also m, and this is fwh. M is defined as the slope of this curve, and delta lambda. And another thing is FWHM is the full wide half maximum expresses in nanometer also. Basically, this high Q parameters implies the low less energy, low losses of energy, and smaller FWHM. And the state of the art of the interdigital capacitor. Basically, this interdigital capacitor based biosensor has some advantages. Firstly, is easy and inexpensive of fabrication, low sample consumption, and the fast reliable measurement. And these types of sensor can be used for the cases of chemical biosensor, biochemical sensor, electromechanical sensor, and piezoelectric sensor also. How this can happen? Basically, this interdigital microelectrode are detected the concentration of the glucose with a various concentration, and the researcher doesn't uses these types of any membranes or any mobile enzyme. That's why it also show the good performance. And but these types of capacitor has two type of disadvantages. Our sensor has two type of shows disadvantages. One is the low dynamic range, and another is the lack of selectivity. And for this solution, they have tried to propose a microfabricated on the glass slide. It also show the good performance. And another issue, the interdigital capacitor based glucose sensor with a solvotonic dicontonic sensor member. It can up to measure the glucose level 1 micrometer to 1 meter range, which is high, so high. And the glucose biosensor using this interdigital capacitor based micro resonator in this chapter, they show the diabetic melatonin. It is one kind of disease, diabetics. It basically depend on the how much glucose in the blood, and how the fluctuated can. The depending on this, the fluctuation of this glucose level on the blood, there are two type of diabetics can categorized. The type 1 is the underproduction, and another is the underutilization is the production 2. And this diabetics actually basically is a complex disease which is related to the brightness, the kidney failure, heart failure, and the nerve generation also. And the World Health Organization estimated that the number of the diabetic patients approximately 347 million in 2013. And they also proposed it. There is a lot of patient for their uses, the diabetic therapy, diet therapy, for and exercise, make exercise, and they also push every day the insulin or some oral drug also they take for these diabetics. This also can another issues. So researchers has to be published or try to be research on the non-enzymatic electrochemical glucose biosensor that are used to overcome the regeneration and use of the mediator enzymic glucose sensor. And the third generation of the glucose sensor provided the level-free detection of the glucose and exhibit a short response time. And our objectives is to making these types of resonator is to minimize the microwave resonator based reusable biosensor, which can be used several times for. And also our another objective is mediator free, and this also can uses the deionesis water glucose solution and the human syrup with a high sensitivity. So that's why we uses the interdigital capacitor, which also in embedded with the sensor. We for our experiment we just take to the glucose samples for microliter 5 microliter with a various concentration dropping in the sensing surface, and also measure with the S parameters with the requirement for this. We also some measuring some propagation constant, impedance, resistance, inductance, conductance, and also capacitance for the S parameters supported to the multi-dimensional glucose sensor glucose. Now we can see the diagram. This is our proposed microwave resonator. Here we can see the proposed glucose sensor and the 3D view electrochemical sensor, and the estimated the current the simulated current density, and this is also the simulated current density. And you can see there is a gallium arsenide plot we can fabricate it on this, and this is also a see the focused ion beam images there. Here also you can see these are the ER based structure, how this can ER based structure in the fabricated, and this is our the interdigital capacitor. And this resonator micro resonator are resonated with the frequency of 1 by twice by root over LC. As the L is the inductor value and the C is the capacitance value. And with this frequency, it can oscillation and produce this oscillation. This is also our the S11 is the parameter, and the S2 is also the output parameter. And we use to this fabrication of this sensor IPD process, and we also focused the ion beam images. And the first we the fabricate of a silicon nitride with a 200 nanometer with the using of the plasma enhanced chemical vapor deposition process on the gallium arsenide substrate as a passivation layer. Its thickness is almost 400 micrometer, and after that 2 micrometer thickness of AU metal layer is also posited. And after that as a procedure or 20 to 80 nanometer titanium or AU seed material with the using of RF scattering process we can use and to the fabricate. And after that a seed metal layer is also on this fabricated on this layer, and the second passivation layer of a 2 millimeter of a silicon nitride also produced. And the ER base, after the ER base photo process we can plating process. And preparation of our glucose sensor human serum, we have to make two glucose stock solution and also serum. The glucose solution as a mixer with a deionized water with a D-glucose powder, and the serum also sample is taken from a healthy human blood. We also produced this glucose water sample with a different concentration, almost 11, and these are the concentration level in the milligram per milliliter. And the base glucose level of this serum obtained from the blood, almost we can this can steering with 300 rpm for 12 minutes, and it was 1.48 milligram per mole. And the measurement of the glucose level depended on S parameters. We can use this the elegant 8510C, a vector analyzer for our analyzing the devices. And this is the analyzer, and these are the resonator. These are the resonator with a connecting wire of a 50 ohm connectors is the resistance. And this is also is a microscopic images of resonator being glucose samples. And this is the ACM. This is the ACM image, and this is also our IDC. That means interdigital capacitor equivalent circuit modeling. And these are the fabrication layer of steps for this. We uses the almost 6 layer, and this is the gallium arsenide. Then after that silicon nitride, and then seed metal, and after the first metal, and then again seed metal, and then second metal. This is the fabrication in this process. And this is the capacitor of the equivalent circuit of this capacitor, interdigital capacitor. And fabricated resonator basically wire bonded with a 50 ohm transmission line. And these 5 micro rotalar samples are placed on the resonator surface using the fine printed. And these S parameters also measure with the frequency range 62.12 to 12 gigahertz range. And all the samples are equilibrium to the prepared with a same temperature at the room temperature with the same procedure, and same follow the same recipe. And the temperature measure with the individual sample range from 19.3 to 20.7 degrees Celsius. And the resonator surface was refreshed with several time by the deionized water after for the glucose water solution, and also the surface buffer saline PBS solution for the serum to remove the glucose samples for reuse or for the period of the uses. And we can from the equivalent circuit we can show the if we calculate this the interdigital capacitance, the equivalent impedance will be the capacitance by this equation. We can calculate this equation, and this also represents the equivalent impedance of this. And CP and CSB is represent as the capacitive effect by the direct flux and flux via substrate. And CA is the represent as the CA is the represent the capacitive effect due to the flux via air medium. And CG and GG represent the capacitance, and this is also capacitance. This is a one kind of capacitance, and this is also the conductance of the flux via the glucose sample. And we can also calculate it by the unique capacitance of IDC with the glucose sample. And now the unique capacitance can also calculated by the CUC. This is the unit capacitance by the follow this equation. And the dielectric constant and the loss factor of the glucose sample are also presented by this equation. And this dielectric constant of basically the dielectric constant of water glucose solution is lower than the water. And the glucose was a dipole moment almost 3.8, and the molecular weight is equal to 180 for kDa. And you can show a effect of a viscous effect, which is also increasing with the, if we increase the concentration of the glucose solution, and the resulting the relaxation times and correspondingly the decrease the dielectric constant and increasing the loss factor. And there is the detection using the resonator S parameters, and this is the result of the six sample. The first sample is the bare resonator and deionized water, and the glucose sample with a 0.5 milligram per mole, and the serum and the PVS solution. Both all these are counted. We can see these are all the show the downward train with almost the same. The one other, and one is the bare resonator is the exception. In this graph, we can see the shift of the center frequency with the glucose solution with a different six samples with a different concentration. And we can see also that that there are also the AS1 variation of the different sample. These are the samples, 6 samples, and these are the variation that they follow the downward trends. It ranges from almost 1.2 to 1.8 gigahertz, and this the glucose solution, and this also shows the linear regression, and this linear regression show almost the linearity and the glucose concentration. It is followed by the equation. Actually, the value with it are with fitted with this curve. This can also show. And the last, the glucose frequency for serum, we can see there is a 6 different concentration of the serum, and these are proposed, and this sensitivity of this almost 11990 megahertz per milligram per mole sensitivity, so it is so high. And with a multidimensional detection using variated parameters, we can here we can measure the 2 parameters. One is the propagation constant and another is the impedance constant. This is the result of the 6 different concentration of glucose with a Z, that means the impedance, and this is also the propagations. This also you can see all these are distinguishes exception with that the concentration. And you can also see that this is the resistance, this is resistance value, and this is the L for inductance, shows effect with the frequency in the gigahertz range. And these are the conductance, and this is also the capacitance of this. This is also show, and you can show this. And we can also for to show our performance, we can apply this biosensor, our proposed biosensor for three diabetic patient for molecular, and we can output, and each of the sample are for measure for 4 times, and we can show these are the recovery percentage, and these are the founded in the hospital consultation, and this are determined by the biosensor almost like as that. And the surface regeneration and the surface reusability is the most important factor for biosensor. And initially the measurement is parameters bare sensor and the S parameter for resonator sensor. And but if we want to reuse our sensor, we know about the reusability condition. So we have observed by this atomic is the AFM method, using by the AFM method. This is the view of AFM. The first case is the when the no sample is putting it there, after the blood sample is just putting it there, and after cleaning the sample is almost the same as the no sample on the frequency. That means the row it is the reusability is almost so high. And this is the comparison with our this is our glucose level sensing. It's almost a 0.6, and this is also the sensing level, and all the others are like as that. These are the comparison table of the with different sensing level with our RFs. This is a level free. We can propose it level free glucose sensing, and this is also the V nose shape transmission line, and this also another modified it with the electrode of sensing of the same applications. So thank you for watching my presentation.